Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mafufu Speaks. I'd like to thank you guys for joining me once more and for the feedback, for liking, and for viewing and listening to what I have to say and for listening to my podcast. I do not take it for granted. I really appreciate the support. And I think for a podcast that's on its third episode now, in terms of, views and stuff like that and recurring views, I think that's what it's called, people, an audience that comes back to listen again. I think we're doing okay, and thank you for sharing and continue to share and support, and we'll continue to have loads more conversations. So today I will be talking about the concept of consent, sexual harassment, and rape culture, because I felt that it was very important that I talk about this on the podcast, because we live in the times of Bob Breaks and the Harvey Weinsteins of this world. So what is consent? Consent means voluntary or unforced agreement. It is an agreement between parties to engage in a sexual activity. I feel like it's much more nicer and fun when there's consent involved in the sexual activity. So how do we then determine consent? He or she who wants to lay with another must obtain the consent. Silence does not imply consent. Previous consent or a previous sexual relationship does not give you consent. You cannot imply consent from how a person is dressed, guys. Like, a person can be in a bikini, shorts, a mini dress, tight dress, skinny jeans, tight jeans, whatever they're wearing, does not imply consent. Accepting a social invitation does not imply a person is giving consent. And consent can be withdrawn at any time. Boom! Just like that. You're hot and heavy, you're kissing, you're touching. And then the person's like, nah. I don't feel comfortable anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. Then boom, that's it. It's done. Fun over. Consent withdrawn. You need to stop. So practically, how does it work? So this is how it works practically, right? So consent is about communication. And this communication should happen every time, Giving consent to one activity, kissing for example, doesn't mean that you give consent for increased sexual contact. So fine, person has given consent for you to kiss them. All right, you're kissing, it's nice, it's fun. You're having the utmost fun, right? It does not mean to now you can start taking off their clothes and starting putting your hands where you should not be putting your hands without actually asking, are you okay with this? Can I touch you here? Can I put your hands here? And I always feel the need to stress this one. And because I did mention it before, and I'm going to mention it again. The withdrawal of consent. Guys, listen closely and listen carefully. Consent can be withdrawn at any point. Bruh, hey, you could be butt naked and the person added, nah fam, I don't want to continue. What that means is that you must get yourself dressed and you must say, I respect your wishes, I respect what you're saying, and keep it moving. Why? Because consent has been withdrawn. If you force and you continue on that act, with that act, then you are now, you're stealing, you're committing a crime, it can be, it will be sexual assault, it will be rape, depending on sexual harassment as well, depending on what you are forcing to do, And again, let's clear up consent. Society confuses itself, on purpose, I believe, when it comes to consent, by putting so much emphasis on the situation, on the environment, rather than focusing on the people involved. I'm sure you've heard things like, I saw them, making out. She was obviously okay with it. Or why did she go up to his room? What did she expect? Or yeah. But did you see how she was dressed though? This is how the society tries to dilute and confuse consent. Consent is clear. The definition of consent is very, very clear. It's either you have consent or you don't consent. It's either you have consent to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or you don't, And then people who seem to understand and know and understand the concept of consent then do this. They coerce, So you find that there's consent given under coercion. This is not consent. Don't fool yourself, Don't lie to yourself. Why? Because you'll end up in hot water and in prison, because it is more of the person using manipulation against someone until that person gives in, And this manipulation can happen through pressuring, e.g., repeatedly asking someone until they give in, threatening, I'll break up with you if you don't have sex with me. Intimidation, guys, for example, smashing and breaking something when someone says no. Blackmail, I'll tell everyone that you're gay or lesbian if you don't sleep with me. And guilt tripping someone, if you really, really, really loved me, you would have sex with me. In these instances, it's not like they didn't say no. They couldn't say no, So you might think you were smart and you obtained consent, but you didn't. That is not consent. It's manipulation. So now we jump on to another topic, which is linked. All these topics today are linked to each other. They're like children from the same parent, offsprings, they're all connected, same bloodline. Now we talk about sexual harassment. What is sexual harassment? Sexual harassment involves physical, verbal, or non-verbal conduct, of a sexual nature that is not welcome by the person whom it is directed. Rape and sexual assault are the extreme forms of sexual harassment. Examples of unwelcome conduct can include physical contact, touching a person's body, and attempting to engage in sexual contact with that person. And then it can also be verbal conduct, suggestions or hints of a sexual nature and inappropriate telephone calls and communication, guys, Don't think, but I never touched her. How can she say I sexually harassed her? Through your text, through your hints, through the sexual nature, and inappropriateness of your communication with them. That's how you sexually harass them. And it can also be non-verbal conduct. These may include gestures, giving and posting sexually explicit content. So you'll be like, no, but then I never said anything to them. I never touched them. How is it sexual harassment? That is how it can be sexual harassment. Those gestures and giving and posting sexually explicit content. It is important, guys, to note that a single incident can amount to sexual harassment. You say, no, but it only happened once. It's not like I was always, making this comment, or it's not like I was always just sending her explicit content. Once is enough. That's all it takes. One time. A person can demonstrate that the conduct is unwelcome verbally and non-verbally. Don't say, but she never said anything. It means that she was liking it. Nah, fam, that doesn't work like that. You can't assume that silence gives you consent. There's no such thing, like we discussed earlier, as implied consent. So, what does sexual harassment violate? The universal values of dignity, human dignity, privacy, equity, and mutual respect. Sexual harassment is also a form of unfair discrimination and constitutes a barrier to equity in the workplace or the university community. Sexual harassment undermines a sense of safety and security of the person who's been sexually harassed. So let's play a game. This game is called Mythbusters. I'm going to dispel some myths about sexual harassment. So I'll say a myth and then I dispel it. It's going to be fun. So the first one, sexual harassment is harmless to the victim. Guys, this is not true. Sexual harassment can cause psychological, physical, and economic harm. The psychological and physical consequences include depression, helplessness, and decreased work and study performance. Guys, this is so serious. Sexual harassment can even lead to suicide. Do you understand how serious this is? And the second myth that we're going to be busting, I took this from Ghostbusters, is it's not a big deal if a person is harassed. It's all in good fun. Nah, fam, it's not funny. It's not haha. It's not for jokes. Sexual harassment is very abusive. So there's no way it can be done in good fun. It's only done to intimidate and hurt others. Yes. There is a profile of a typical harasser. Don't make that mistake. Harassers can be any age, gender, race, sexual orientation. They come from all walks of life, from all occupations. Don't ever play yourself, don't ever fool yourself and say, no, but then this person was working in corporate with this big hot shot. There's no way they could have gotten sexually harassed. It comes in any shapes, sizes, occupation, race, gender, sexual orientation. It does not discriminate. It's the monster, hey? It's bad, it's evil. And another one is that perpetrators are monsters and strangers. Sometimes they are, but most of the time, it's someone that someone that you interact with on a daily basis, be it a colleague or a family member, And then this one, victims are to blame in some way for being harassed. What were you wearing? What were you doing there? Were you drinking? Again, victim blaming. The harasser is always responsible, guys, for committing the harassment. There is no way the person who's harassed is responsible for the harassment, regardless of their appearance or behavior. Let me repeat this. The harasser, however you want to say it, is responsible. And this one, which is, I think, is really, really, really like the worst, well, one of the worst, they're all actually worse, these myths, is that only women are sexually harassed. Nah, fam. Both men and women may be targeted by a predator. It's just that men are less likely to report it, because, I don't know, that men ego or that men pride or men don't cry, But then it can be a woman or a man who is sexually harassed, People with disability are not sexual, so they can't be sexually harassed or be harassers. Despite social attitudes and stereotypes about people with disabilities, they can be victims or predators, because what happens is that the disempowered and disabled are actually at a greater risk of being sexually harassed. And then this one. Straight people do not harass gay people. Guys. Lesbians, gays, bisexual, transgenders, they can all be harassed. You find that a lesbian, for example, there will be guys who are like harassing her because they want to turn her gay. No, they want to turn her straight because she's gay, she's lesbian, So it happens. So like it really, really happens. And these myths are bad because then they just make people ignorant, to what's really, really, really happening, And then there's another one. Real rape victims lay charges with the police. Hey? Rape victims rarely find the courage, and at times, they don't actually even consider reporting it because the police and the legal system, these are usually not victim friendly, and I'm not sorry to say that. So I think there are so many myths. If I was to bust them all, like how Ghostbusters are out here busting ghosts, that will take up like a whole hour, because there's just so many, because that's how society tries not to deal with the harsh realities of which sexual harassment happens to all people from all walks of life. So now we're gonna jump right in, like head deep, knee deep, head deep, however deep. But we are jumping in, and we're gonna be talking about rape culture. So what happens with rape culture is that individuals have norms and practices embedded in them that support sexual harassment, and so do institutions, and this has led to what is now being called rape culture. Examples of these are the normalization of male violence. It's being told because men are strong and all of those things, and then that leads to men being violent because they must show their this word I always struggle with, masculinity. They must show that they're masculine beings, and also the promotion of female non-assertiveness. So this happens whereby, a female will tell you, no, I don't like that, no, but then what you then do is that you take it as, no, she doesn't really mean no, she's just saying maybe not now or try harder, so even when women are being assertive, what then being promoted is non-assertiveness of women, so that promotes rape culture, and then the encouragement, guys, of victim blaming. Here you find statements like, she went to a party, she was drinking, what did she expect? Let me answer that real quick. I'll tell you what she expected. A freaking hangover. I feel like people who drink, this, like, if you drink a little bit too much, the next day you expect a hangover. You expect to wake up and be like, oh my goodness, this hangover is killing me. I quit alcohol. Alcohol is the devil's piss. I'm no longer drinking. But then the next weekend you're drinking again because, well, I guess you like drinking, Another one of the norms and practices that just keep pushing and encouraging rape culture is silent discussions around sexual matters. People make this kitchen table talk. You talk about it in the corners somewhere. You shush. It's taboo. You can't talk about it. So this actually harms us as society more than it helps. And then the silence also about homophobia, and then this pains me because then you have issues of corrective rape, where you find lesbian women being raped to turn them straight, or you find gay men being forced to have sexual relations with women so that they can know what they're missing out on and stop being gay, so all the silence around the issues and the topic of homosexuality also promotes rape culture, because then nobody then views those crimes against homosexual people as actually what they are, crimes as actually what they are, which is what it is, which is rape, because then it's not talked about. People don't talk about it. And also trivializing, guys, sexual harassment. It's also a big one, as just flirting, or she's just playing hard to get. She also likes you, pursue her even more. Be persistent. Keep on pushing. And then again, victim blaming, which ties into with the encouragement of victim blaming. Well, why was she wearing that? Did she not see that her skirt was too short? Did she not see that her top was too revealing? She was probably asking for it. Not helping the situation only promotes rape culture, It only normalizes